This year in local sports was historic, hectic, record-breaking, and filled with change. The WDRB Sports team sits down to discuss some of the top stories of 2024.
Well, it is always an interesting year in sports when you work in this market, and pretty fortunate to work with these guys to cover all of it. Tom Lane, Eric Crawford, Rick Bozich. Guys, we will start with, I think, the sport that saw the most change and the one that everybody is known for around here, basketball. Coaching changes at both Louisville and Kentucky. Pat Kelsey in, Kenny Payne out at Louisville, Mark Pope in, John Calipari out at Kentucky, and somehow Rick Pitino shows up in all of this. It's nuts. It's nuts.
It is nuts. Really the most remarkable of all of it was John Calipari's decision to leave Lexington. That's the most shocking part of it. We knew that Calipari wasn't going to leave except on his own terms, and he did. He took an out to Arkansas. They bring in Mark Pope. Everybody tried to hire Scott Drew. He didn't go to either one, so that was it. It was a pretty remarkable little period right there.
Yeah, and they kind of moved in tandem. I mean, Louisville didn't make the tournament. Fans are unhappy. Kentucky does make the tournament and loses to Oakland with 3 first-round NBA draft picks.
In football, Jeff Brom, maybe a little disappointing in the overall scheme of things, but they still win 8 games. Kentucky,
a lot of what could have been.
Yes,
some near misses for the Cards, yeah.
And UK, there's a lot of questions to answer with UK. Very disappointing, and now we kind of all wait for what happens with Mark Stoops.
They start out with probation from the 2021 season. That kind of dropped, and nobody expected it. That was a big deal to vacate all your wins from a football season, and it goes on with the disappointment there. I think that was a big thing, and of course, the biggest football story of all was neither of those two.
The man right here is the only one that picked Indiana to have a winning season, and he was off.
I was way off. I thought 7 wins was a lot.
Hey, I
thought it was outrageous.
Derby 150 was a spectacle in so many different ways. We had history, Kenny McPeak winning the Derby and the Oaks.
It was great to celebrate Kenny McPeak. He's a guy who grew up here in the state, in Lexington, races at Churchill all year long, invested in this race, and to see him win both races on Derby weekend was phenomenal.
We are fortunate to see a number of records in our local prep scene here when it comes to high school. Trinity, 29 state championships now
just keep adding up.
in football. Christian Academy adds to it. But we'd be remiss on the Trinity front as well to not acknowledge they win this in a year where they lose a coach like Dennis Lampley, who is as responsible for the tradition at Trinity and the winning tradition they've built as anybody else.
Yeah, was a legend there. Won 50 consecutive games in the early 90s. Coached the Brahms, and then later became athletic director at Trinity, and really Mr. Trinity for a long time there.
PGA Championship being back at Valhalla was unique in how much time do we got? It was Xander Schauffele breaks he can't win the big one thing, and then a little guy named Scotty Scheffler kind of made a little bit of news.
Scheffler was the guy coming in. He had won his last 2 events. He had won 4 of 5, and then sat out for several weeks because his wife was about to give birth. And then he gets arrested on the morning.
Nobody here is ever going to
on the morning of the second round, and I thought he handled that as well as could possibly be handled.
And of course, a big part of the golf scene, the Solheim Cup is coming to Louisville as well. That is basically the female equivalent of the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
And jumping off of that, when we talk about women's sports, I remember talking to Craig Greenberg about trying to make Louisville a women's sports capital of some sort. The U.S. women's national team came back here for the first time in 20 years.
And on the men's side, you've got Louisville City, its best regular season ever, followed by its worst postseason ever. So they will have to rebound from that next year.
Yeah. And racing's got a lot to figure out. They make a GM change. They don't make the playoffs again. And we'd be remiss to talk about the topic of women's sports without mentioning the volleyball Final Four national championship being here. To get that stage to see, for the nation to see what it means to Louisville, I think is an outstanding opportunity. There's not a better team you could ask for to cover the wide range of stuff that we're asked to cover. We are very thankful that you decide to keep up with us through all of it. We wish you a happy holiday, a happy new year. For Tom Lane, Eric Crawford, and Rick Bozich, I'm Tyler Griever for WDRB Sports.